the existing property and make it accessible for fans who haven't watched or haven't read the books?
About 11 months worth of difficult. We can laugh now, but we did tell ourselves at the very beginning of the process that we were going to try to work all of the rules of the world build and the universe organically into the show so that the audience could be challenged to ask and answer their own questions, to pick things up along the way. We said we will never be those hacky sellouts who put a saga cell at the beginning explaining everything.
We have a saga cell now.
We do, and it's like really helpful, and it's really
great.
good.
That's the answer.
What was it captured? Like, was there a sort of relationship that you had to nail? Anything in particular that you knew you had to get in there to satisfy everybody?
Yeah, I mean, like, when I read the books, obviously I was deeply moved by the power of the friendship between Rose and Lissa. And I was deeply, deeply moved, in other ways, by the power of the intense attraction and love story of Rose and Dimitri. So those, for me, were the two things that were most important to make sure we got right. If I felt like I fail Rose and Dimitri, if I personally fail Rose and Lissa, I should not have done this. I will write a very deep apology letter to Rochelle, the novelist, because I just wasn't going to mess that up. So I feel like I did
Lissa
it.
And
But
Christian
you?
as well. Well, Lissa and Christian too,
Yeah.
really, because it's three love stories. One is like the best friend story of women friendship, young women finding their way through life, and they're so different, and that's what makes it even more wonderful. They're so challenged, everything that happens. But I also think, Christian and Lissa is such a different relationship. I actually think that's one of the things that makes me love Dimitri and Rose so much too, because we have such different love stories being told, and we also have additional love stories in the series that were not in the books.
Yeah, we loved creating new couplings that weren't in the books. There was no queer representation in the books at all. So we definitely had a good time, deciding which of our characters would be in that community and what their love stories would be. So there's a lot of fun there too.
Are you ready to take on another franchise with a lot of ships?
I mean, yes, because if we did our jobs right, that will be the outcome of this experience, and that means people love it.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy, and I'll just avoid the yelling at me, I'll just keep my comments off for a little while.
I think we're going to win a lot of people over too. I feel when I watch it, and I'm really drawn into all of these love stories so much. Even if somebody doesn't love it, they're going to be like, no, I get it. They're going to have to just be honest with themselves, because it's really working.
It works on that level that I always discovered well after the fact that Vampire Diaries and Originals worked, which that a woman would sit down, bring her boyfriend in, or her husband, or a daughter would bring her father, or whatever, and suddenly the men are so deeply invested in the show because it does give you it gives you that strong emotional foundation of family and of connection, but also there's a lot of really cool mythology and a lot of great vampire eye candy and great action sequences.
So much action in this,
tons of action. So it kind of does not, it's not a recipe that we're trying to fill by any means, but it really does tick a lot of boxes for a fully fleshed out audience.
You changed the character backstory for Sonia Clark. Was there a reason why, and what we can kind of expect from her before going into the season for diehard fans who know kind of where she goes?
Yeah. All I can say on the matter, without being a little spoilery, is that when we went back and reread the first book, we realized that so much cool story had already happened. Sonia's story had already been told. It was long gone and forgotten, right? The story of Lissa's family, of Andre, her brother, had already been told. And we thought, well, that's for television, when you could see the pictures and not just read the words, that's actually a wasted opportunity. So we did a lot of telling stories in a different order than you might think. So just because something seems like it's not being represented doesn't mean it's never going to be represented.
It's working though.
Good.
It's working.
Good. And there's little hints. There's little hints in there that tell you maybe what we're doing with it. Yeah.
Did you stick with just the first book for the first season, or are you bringing in other parts?
There are a lot of, well, you can talk
Well,
about
yeah,
this.
there's elements from all of the books actually. We pull some story way forward because one of the things we liked about telling the story now and the why now of it is it's about a society that's kind of coming apart, a class-based system that's not working and that's challenging everyone, and so that's really resonant now. So the political stuff that's deeper in the series got pulled forward, but there's still all that other story to tell. So again, you'll see it all. It'll just be rearranged. So it's not in the order of the books. But,
but we like to make the promise to fans that like if there's something that you loved about the books, most likely in the run of this series, if we are allowed to tell the story as long as we want to, you will see it because we loved it too. Well, I mean, look, without being spoilery about the books for those who haven't read it, but for those who have, I mean, book 3 tells a very, very, very good story. And you don't want the show to end at the end of book 3.
No.
And you don't want book 3 to be season 2 necessarily either. So we're at least, we're trying to follow that timeline a little bit. Again, I'm being coy just because I don't want to ruin it for anybody else, but I think that we could take it through 3 into 4, and then depending on the world, even beyond that.
Yeah, there's a lot of story to tell.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, let us not forget there is an entire spin-off series.
I mean, Rochelle Mead was
Very
great
busy.
writer,
Very
very
busy.
busy, very prolific.
so how do you find that balance of giving the fans what they want and also telling your own story?
It's because we are fans of the material, so we're giving ourselves what we want. We're making decisions for ourselves about what maybe doesn't feel right. I mean, little things like in the books, Rose was not at the age of consent, right? So as hot and smoky and steamy as her little illicit affair with Dimitri was in 2007 or 8, it doesn't really feel like that anybody needs to see that. I mean, we've seen that time and again in television. It wasn't really interesting to us to tell that story, so we made changes there. There's a lot of sort of like episodic kind of gossip girl frolicking and fun that would like drive the plot of the first 2 books almost entirely. We reduced those down to scenes or moments, parties, as opposed to driving the whole story of a season. And then so as in doing that, we made up a lot of new story or pulled a lot of new story forward. So we're following our own instinct as storytellers who have all these great story cards on the wall, as though a writer's room sat and broke story for a year and a half. So we have an embarrassment of riches of good ideas, and now it's just about the math of the storytelling math of where they're all supposed to lay out.
Can you talk about shooting the show in Spain and why Spain?
When Julie, actually she read the books before reading Vampire Diaries, and we were on vacation together back in the day during Pilot's Live, and I ended up reading the books too. And when Julie got them and wanted to do them with me, one of the things she had was a ton of locations that had been sent to her because she knew she wanted to do it in Europe, and it was like, great, that's the perfect place. But then where? And out of these tons and tons of pictures that came, I was like, there's one town in Spain, Oviedo, what is it? And she was like, that's the one I like. And we both had the same idea about it, the same vision. And as you would say, it's like a castle, and next to it is a burger joint. So you have, and we got lucky too when we went to Scotland.
Got an actual burger joint, by the way, but a bar, a great dive bar with a really good chicken sandwich.
More than that. And some very nice fish as well. And then when we were there, when we were scouting, and we were up on the turret of this castle, and we went, what? There's some vineyards. We're like, what's that building? And they're like, it's a monastery. It's empty. They're trying to sell it. And we were like,
that's
it's
our boarding school. Yeah.
So everything was serendipity for all of that. So, and wanting to expand the world, make it bigger.
It was
and
really,
combine the world too. Because in the books, they're Pennsylvania and Montana. They're split from each other. And here we could the pressure could come way higher on when you're living in
it was really
fishbowl.
important just for story reasons, that it wasn't just a school set at a show set at a boarding school, because I just did that on Legacies. And I loved all the Bridgerton opportunities of the royal court, but in the books they only go to the royal court very periodically. And so first thing we did was let's put it all under one roof. And that's why we went to Europe, because once we decided that a boarding school and a castle and the entire royal court of this dominion needed to be all together, we realized, you ain't finding that in Montana,
not
So
like-
we went surfing. We went surfing in the UK. You know, Edinburgh. We're looking at all the Harry Potter castles, and then somebody from Shondaland, actually, who is friendly with Emily Cummins, another producer on this project, said, "Have you guys ever thought about Spain? Because we shot Star-Crossed there and had the time of our lives. And lo and behold, when we looked into Spain, this setting that now we shot the show in was one of the first things our eyes
Yeah, it was
were drawn
really
to. It was
unique,
really
and it didn't look like
didn't
something
look
we'd
like
seen
Harry
before.
Potter.
Yeah,
It didn't
exactly.
look like a world that you'd lived in before at all, and that's why we loved it.
It's important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to it.